and what PM Lee had to say about upgrading. He said that voters in wards won by the opposition cannot expect the same improvement promised by the PAP. I want to ask PM Lee one thing. Whose money are you using for the upgrading? PM Lee, who is paying your salary? PM Lee, who is funding your grow and share package? Singaporeans, this is your money. So can someone remind us why we are still so scared of the PAP?
Yes.
We are not scared anymore, and we will not be afraid. So I ask you one thing. For the next 5 years, do you want a fresh coat of paint in your void deck? Or do you want a voice to speak up for you in Parliament? PM Lee also made the analogy that running the country is like driving a car. He said, and I quote from the Straits Times, "Better find the best driver who is not only capable, but who really cares for where the car is going. And if it doesn't work, throw him out." Singaporeans, it might seem that things are suddenly taking a turn for the better in the past month. Suddenly, national issues are being addressed. You have quick fix solutions that are presented in the blink of an eye. Then the question I want to ask the PAP is, what happened in the past 5 years? Number one, our GST increased to 7%. They say they want to help the poor. Well, let me tell you something. $1.9 billion was generated from the increase, but only $0.4 billion was distributed to the poor. Where did the rest of the money go? Number two, public housing prices was left to free market forces and shot up. Now, Singaporeans need to pay off their flat in 30 years instead of 20 years. At first, they said that this is so we will have a stake in the country. Now, they turn around and say that we are raiding the reserves. But then, whose money is it? How come we don't earn 15K a month, but then we need to contribute so much money to our national reserves? Number three, our population shot up by 26% over the past 10 years. Last time, when I was in primary school, I take the train, I see Singaporeans everywhere I go. Now, every time I take the train, it feels like I am in a different country. It is like taking a holiday. I don't even need to bring my passport. You think that they say in the past few weeks they want to solve these problems? They will solve it? If so, why were they not solved in the past 5 years? Let me talk about what the NSP will do for you. The NSP will make Singaporeans a priority when it comes to employment.
Yes.
We will make you a priority. Instead of focusing on GDP growth, which is the KPI that determines how much bonus your ministers get. we will focus on growing your wages for Singaporeans and to build a better quality of life. Next, the NSP wants to redefine the notion of public housing. Since when did public housing become so expensive? Now, couples are settling down at a later age because they do not want the burden of the huge debt to pay off their houses. Public housing indeed. The NSP promises compassionate lower prices for first-time homeowners, and we will not use upgrading as a carrot to win Singaporeans over. Our party's interest is not as important as Singaporeans' interests. You are the ones that we are serving today. The NSP also wants to ensure that the elderly and the disabled are fully entitled to transportation subsidies. Do you know that that is not the case in Singapore right now? Because if your MP thinks that you don't need transport subsidy, you don't get transport subsidy. As a result, many older Singaporeans in certain constituencies are not eligible for subsidies. Lastly, the NSP wants to reduce GST back to 5%. The last time in 2006, GST was increased to 7% with the argument that it will help the poor. Then what happened to all the money? Go where? Middle-class Singaporeans who did not qualify for assistance back then have to struggle even more now because it eats into your expenses and your disposable income. So before I end off this speech, I want you to remember 3 things when you cast your vote this 7th of May. Number 1, the PAP made many promises in the last elections in 2006, and yet Singaporeans continued to suffer even more in the years ahead. Remember that. Number 2, vote for the party that will speak up for you, not the one that threatens you with fear. Because you, the Singaporean, deserves to be heard. Number 3, you as a Singaporean deserve to hold the government accountable for the policies they have implemented over the past 5 years. So with that, I would like to end off by saying, saya dari NSP, undi kita! Vote for the NSP, 请投我们一票，谢谢。